Right, it's my second attempt at this video. Going to try and do a video about selecting terrain response on your Land Rover Defender 2020. And this is going to cover how to select terrain response, how to see which mode you're in. I'm not going to go into too much details of what the different modes do, but we are going to also look at selecting hill descent control and all terrain progress control. So it's HDC and ATPC. So right, let's start. So it's quite cool. They've done quite a good thing. So rather than having lots of extra buttons, you've got one button here. It might be a bit dark. Let me put a bit of light on here. So you've got one button here that you can press. And then this changes from a temperature now into a terrain select, and you can see it brings up this extra menu at the bottom. It will disappear after a while. Don't worry if it does that. As long as this light is still selected, when you rotate it, it will bring it up. So the default mode, let me just close that for a minute. The default mode for my vehicle is the comfort mode, this one here. So if I go that way, comfort mode, and that's what it defaults to, comfort program selected. So we can go eco for economy driving, muds and ruts, etc. So you just turn the dial, and then if we go to muds and ruts, it gives us a little bit of advice here. Now we can actually, rather than do the rotation thing, if we press the button and get the display up, we can actually just press on the one we want, muds and ruts, and it'll tell you. Now the other cool thing is, not only does it bring up that extra menu here, when I rotate this on the instrument cluster, the information, and it'll tell me is configurable terrain response, it'll tell me all wade, they go rock crawl, sand, muds, ruts, gravel and snow, comfort and eco. So it will give me all those modes, and then whenever I select one, not only will I be able to see here which one I'm in, it will also show me here which mode I'm in. Okay, and you see there it changed above the P, it's changed it now, so it now shows what mode we're in. That's the only place you can see what mode you're in. This is because I've got the suspension up. I will put that down to save confusing. Right. Interestingly, not only does it give you the thing here, when you're in muds and ruts, you've got hill descent, so it gives you the hill descent symbol there. Right, so that's basically how to select the different terrain response modes, by using this button and selecting each one. Now, if you're using terrain response, you'll want to set it so that this instrument cluster shows this 4x4 display. So when you select one of the relevant terrain response modes, it will show you some additional information here. Now, to turn this on or off, ideally on, if you press this central button here, you will get this display at the top, and if you scroll along until you get this display one here, then what you can do is scroll down using this until you get to, hold on, you've got to press OK, and then scroll down, and make sure you've got this flag ticked here for off-road information. If you don't have that ticked, you won't get that additional 4x4 information up, which is worth having. Terrain response 2. So this comes pretty much under this category. So when you select your terrain response mode, you can see all these, but if at the end here you've got auto activated, that means visible, that means you have automatic terrain response, which is what the Land Rover also call terrain response 2. Now, the purpose of this, what does it do? So in theory, if you're going off-road and you're not quite sure which mode will be best for your driving, and I'll explain that, because when we went on that 4x4 day, it was muds and ruts, and then we approached some concrete steps in the middle of a field, which was a bit odd, and we tried to climb up them, but we were in mud and ruts mode because we'd just driven through mud and ruts, and I should have perhaps put it in rock crawl. But if I'd have had it on auto or terrain response 2 mode, it would have looked at my wheel spin, my axle articulation, all the things it can sense with its various suspension height sensors and engine sensors, and it would have selected what it thought. Now, this apparently has been set after hours and hours and days of research by people driving Land Rovers off-road to determine what the optimum settings are. It was an option I paid £770 for, and was part of what Land Rover call the off-road capability pack. So if you're looking at that, it might be something you want to do. Now, what's a bit annoying is I pay all this money for this extra feature and it's sort of hidden. It just says auto. Now, if I rotate the dial to try and select it, I can't. I keep rotating, it's not there, and also it's not there on the dash display. So the auto is somewhat hidden, and the only way you can select the auto is, if it gives me is actually to press the button on the screen. Well, it's not the only way. There is actually another shortcut, so I've left it on comfort. But if you press and hold this button, you have to wait for it to deactivate back to temperature. If I press and hold this for a couple of seconds, it will put it into auto mode for me automatically. Now, you'll notice it's a bit annoying because nothing comes up on the screen. So if I press it here, all right, nothing comes up on the screen, but it does select it on the dash. Now, the other thing is, so not only can you not scroll to it, not only can you not see it on the options here, you cannot see that I'm in auto mode once it's selected. It would be cool if it showed above the P, where it used to show the little symbols for rock climbing and all the other modes. It doesn't show it, so I'm absolutely unaware that I am in auto mode unless I press this button again and see that it's shaded. So that is terrain response 2, that is what it does, and that is how to select it. But there are a couple of limitations that I don't quite understand with when you're in auto. Apparently it won't automatically select eco mode. Now, I can understand that. Eco mode is a sort of opt-in feature. It's something you choose to do, and the vehicle wouldn't know that you were choosing to do that. But it also apparently won't select wading mode. So one of the modes on here, if you look, is wading mode, and it's quite cool actually. So it's this one here with the water next to it. So if I go along and select it, and when you select wading mode, it actually it actually raises the suspension, so my car is going up in the air now. You can see the wading mode's on and it's raised the suspension. So that is quite cool. And I don't know, because we have wade sensors under the mirrors. It's got wade sensors. It would know when it's in water. So I'm not sure why Land Rover can't put wade sensing into the automatic Terrain 2 system. There was another mode, so it wouldn't do eco, it wouldn't do, and also configurable terrain response. Now, I can understand configurable terrain response because, again, that's something you opt into. You select your own settings. And I will show you in another section of this video, we will go into how to do configurable terrain response. Right, now, there's some other things we need to talk about. Right, limitations. So we've selected the mode we want to be in. So we have, let's go and select muds and ruts just for the fun. So let me just put my suspension down, and then let's put this, and let's select the old favorite mud and ruts. I've done it by touching. We've got mud and ruts selected, which is all good. So we're driving along, happy as you like, in our muds and ruts mode. And then we find an injured squirrel by the side of the road. We think, oh no, must go and save him because we're all environmental. We love all that. So, right, so we think, oh, okay, let's stop the car. Let's get out and click the poor old thing. We jump out the car. We get back in again. We start the car. We've got our little squirrel. We put him in a blanket. There we go, start up. Right, now you will notice that somewhat annoyingly, the car has put me back into comfort mode. You can see above the P here, I am in comfort mode. So when you have selected your mode, do be careful. If you get out or stop, it will not put you back into that mode. So you've been warned. But maybe this is good news. If you have selected if you go on here and you have selected the auto terrain response mode, because you want the car to do everything for you, then there you go, that's we've selected that, we've got that, and then if we stop in this mode, oh no, there's another squirrel. Let's jump out. There we go. We jump out the car door. We get back in. We start it again. Now, obviously, we don't know what mode we're in now, but we can see we're not in comfort. So, I guess by the absence of anything, we know there's something weird going on. So we've got nothing there. And sure enough, if we press the button here, you can see we are in auto. So maybe auto is good if you're planning to get in and out of your car, as long as you're not expecting it to select wading for you. Do the configurable terrain response. So if you look on here again, we can select here, and the configurable terrain response is this one here. There we go. I've selected wade. There you go. Configure. So there you go. Okay, and you have to understand, right, now this brings you up with this screen. Now there is another way to get to this screen. If you're on the home screen, you can also go into the apps, go 4x4 information, okay, and then you can, there you see you've got all your configurable terrain response settings. Now the good news is I did a little trial and I changed all these for a different, I moved them all from the default, and it actually saved them when I turned the ignition off, okay? So I'm just going to reset them all now to default. So the good news is that if you set something on configurable terrain response, it will save those settings that you saved. So when you cycle the ignition, it will have put you back to comfort mode, not configurable terrain, but you will have to select configurable terrain response again. But when you do so, it will have saved your preferences, which is good, unless you do a reset, which I've just, and then obviously you can rename them as well, so you can save them and rename them. But again, I'm not going to go into too much of that because I don't know too much. Right, the last topic I wanted to cover was hill descent control. Right, so we do have a button here. So if I just put the car, let me just put the car back into comfort mode. So when we're in the home screen, we do not have in comfort, we will not have a hill descent control. You may have it because it does stay active for a lot longer. So it stays active for up to 6 hours after selected. So I've just reset it, we've got nothing here. But if I select one of the off-road modes, the muds and ruts modes, it will automatically select for us here. You'll see my hill descent control come on. Now beware, there's two icons. One, the car is going downhill, and that's for hill descent control. Now there's another mode which is called all-terrain progress control, which is basically like a low speed cruise control setting. The hill descent control, again, if you watch my video, I've got some issues with it, but it basically is when you're going down very steep hills to stop the car running away. Now the way you can actually turn this off, it will come on automatically, but if you press this button here, you can change it from hill descent control to all-terrain progress control. I think you saw that come up there, and if you press it once more, it disables it there, so it takes it off. So the hill descent control will come on automatically with some modes. If you want to go a little bit faster than hill descent control, you can change it to all-terrain by pressing it again, and if you want to turn both hill descent control and all-terrain progress control off, you press it a third time and that will deselect it. That should have covered all you need to know about setting the various terrain response modes on your Land Rover Defender.